it's kind of, and I'm sure some of you can see the nonsense in that, but there has to be a plan. There's nothing wrong with a great plan, and study it and then make the movement in a logical and rational and unemotional way. We don't, this is the public's money. It's my money, your money, and I'd like to see the space considered for the people. These are going to be our buildings, and the main thing that you want to consider in the task force, which I understand that I totally understand, you don't want anybody on there that knows what they're doing, so I know why I was limited. And you know, I don't have a big ego. I don't have probably an ego at all. That's why I take the views that I do from you guys. But it has to be end up for the people's use. I want to be able to go to the clerk's office easily. I want to be able to go to the auditor's office easily. And you've got to have a great plan. This is an emotional reaction to one person. This is not, and you've done a great job, Jeff. But one, where are you gonna pull the money from? Believe me, we're gonna let the public know where you're gonna pull the money from. I don't think any of you want it. At least 4 of you don't want this silliness. You need a CIP. You need the results from the task force. That's 2 years away. This is a nice pie in the sky thing, but it's not rational. It's not even practical to consider spending $200 or $300 or $400 or $500,000 on this right now. Maybe down the line when you know where you want everybody and where it's going to be convenient for the people. We have to be considered first. I want to be able to go to these public offices, have a place to park, have a place to get in and out of. I mean, that's got to be like top number one thing. I have these, I just did a simple matrix on just numbers. The plan for 2, if the task force decides that's where the new boardroom, if any, are to be. I have, and I'm not going to take your time up right now on why those are highlighted, but to give you a briefing, there's very, very much questionable those budgeted expenses. This is where I retired from. And I was in construction management for a long time. And I know what I'm doing. I did a lot of big projects, a lot of little projects. So you don't want right now, today, anybody that's going to disagree with the one person that's pushing this. Because there's no money, there's no budget, there's no plan. That's the biggest thing, there's no plan. You can have Jeff redo these 20 times. You still don't have a plan for the people. So I mean, he does good work, but I can see how frustrated he's getting because I think, I can't speak for him, but this is just silly to be talking about this without a plan. It just is.
If you don't have anything new to add.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? Right, Jean?
Well, just for the benefit of the people that weren't here earlier today, Jean Hodge, I have talked to several members of the Susanville City Council that are willing to, for a small amount of money, allow this board to meet in the city hall, city council chambers. So that's also a very viable option. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. like to have some discussion. I personally feel that, yeah, sure, it's gonna cost money, whatever we do, but at the same time, we do need, I'm a cheerleader as well for the plan. And I think in that plan needs to be the courthouse deal, new board chambers. I mean, yeah, we need to spend money, everything costs money, and we can't just sit here with the current infrastructure until it crumbles around, down all upon us, so I'm eager to get started. I support, looking at, updating or a whole new board chambers, but part of a plan that is prioritized. It needs to be prioritized, and if the majority of the board feels that that's the first priority, then I'll support spending those dollars on that. I just think that we need to have a plan, and we need to start the plan soon, because the county's buildings are old, they're inefficient. We spend probably way more money than we need to on utilities, and we need to get with the program and improve not only the boardroom, but everything as a whole. So that's kind of how I feel. And I think that I disagree that it's the opinion of just one board member that we need to do something about the current situation. I also think that at times, this place is outdated. It's small. And there is other options. If we have a bigger meeting, if the agenda is going to be packed, and going to the city is a good one. And this board chambers, in my opinion, for the most part, does well. But are we going to be? Are people going to be using this in another 75 years? Of course not. So it all starts with a plan, and I think we need to get into high gear on the capital improvement plan, and then that needs to include these other things we're talking about. That's how I see it. Anyone else?
Well, I agree. We've had some good discussions on what we need. Just like Tom sitting there, he's got to come over here and sit in Bob's lap to see what's on the screen or to read the board there. I've sat over there. It's very uncomfortable, for that. There's lots of times that you come in here, and I feel sad for the people that are standing out in the hallway, on both hallways, because there's no room in here. And you never know what's going to bring in the people. You try to guess. If you think you have a big item, well then you move to Jensen Hall or the City Hall or something like that, but you can never tell what people are going to show up for, so that's always hard to guesstimate on. And at the same time, seeing all these dollars, it's scary. They're big items, and I don't know if there's some things we can do with the people we got housed over here in our jail, have some expertise, we can get in and do some of this work for us to knock the cost down. I don't know how any of that stuff works, but I don't see why we can't utilize some of that stuff. As we move forward, but yeah, we just need to keep, chipping away at it. We can't just always sit back and relax and wait for something to fall out of the sky, because it's not going to happen. We need to be proactive and move forward as we go along.
Thank you. Jim, would you like to?
Well, yeah, I'll say something because I have to leave in about 5 minutes. I have a dental appointment. I have to go take care of some emergency repair work that can't wait till April. And this was 2 o'clock today was the only time I could get accommodated.
You're going to be late.
No, it's not. What I have to say is, first of all, we don't have to do anything. We could just sit right here for another 27 years. It's not something, in terms, this room was inadequate when they moved here 27 years ago. And my recommendation, if we don't want to spend any money, and that's the issue that's raised by those who want to spend any money, at least we spend a couple dollars and get some new chairs for the audience. Because these chairs date back to the early 60s. And I'm sick and tired of looking at them. I think we need some new chairs. In fact, over the weekend at the Best of Broadway show, wonderful performance, terrific, go see it, guys. We got 320 new chairs in there that are just amazing. Compared to the old folding chairs that we used to have down there, which we use in other parts of the county. So at least, if nothing else, we, ought to spring for those. The only reason why we don't have the chairs that were originally purchased with those chairs back in 1960 is because Hughes de Martin Perry's chair collapsed and he rolled out that door and was laying on his back, wondering what happened. And it was kind of a startling moment, and the board made Bixby at that time, he was in the early 90s, to spend $1,500 and buy some new chairs that you're sitting in. So, we can do that. I mean, we don't have to go across and pay rent or, City Hall. And occasionally, if we have a bigger meeting, we could probably, take advantage of that. But I think really, in terms of the accommodation in that building, we talk about a plan. Actually, it's been the plan since 2002, when the courts determined they were going to leave Courthouse Square. It took them a few years to get their money together to build a new courthouse, and it took them 2 years to actually build it once they started construction. But that whole time, the space that we're talking about in the annex was identified as being the space where the board was going to move back. So it's not like something that just came out of the clear blue. It'd be nice to have, once you have a plan, to actually implement the plan when you have the opportunity. My criticism runs deep. With staff, I have to bite my tongue because I appreciate and love them dearly, but at the same time, that space has been sitting empty in terms of being utilized for the last 18 months. And we've had departments in the courthouse with the rest of the space that was vacated by the courts that sat there and looked at the empty space for, basically for 18 months, until they basically rose up last fall and forced Mr. Nichols to finally bring to the board, a reallocation of space, and they now are better accommodated. I mean, if the space was being used and we were kicking somebody out, it's a different thing. If we're talking about building new space, it'd be a different thing. But good God, we got that space there sitting there being totally unutilized, except for they're storing computers in there now that they're trying to get formatted and farmed out to the various departments. And I think that the public would be better served if we could adapt that space for the needs of the board and for our meetings, so we don't have people standing in the hallways, and maybe we can get a few new chairs. If we were renovating board space, every 5 years or every 2 years, even every 10 years, maybe I think the questionable expense could be made there. But you take $200,000 and divide it by 27 years, and divide it by 50 years, and determine how much per year you're actually costing about. It's a heck of a lot more affordable than paying rent to some other body for their chambers or going out and renting meeting hall space. So I think it's an investment that's long overdue, and it's something that has been, I've been sitting here patiently waiting since 2002 to see some progress being made. And the only reason why I got on my high horse and made an issue about it when I did was because I'm tired of waiting. I want to see us get into something that's going to be more accommodating, where the staff there's no room for staff in here. There's barely room for the media. We have marginal room for the public. And the only ones that actually has a decent workspace in the room is the 5 of us. And I don't think that's fair. I think that the public, the staff, the media, everybody should be given accommodations. So the 85 spaces, or the room that we have going from 800 square feet to 900 square feet to 640 square feet, back to 1,400 square feet, makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. And they started out 1917 with 800 square feet in that corner room, and I think we could be doing better now. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll excuse myself because I need to go over and face the dentist.
Good luck.
No.
Have fun, Jim.
Anyway, I'm all in favor of moving. And if these guys want to stay with these chairs, they're welcome to do that.
Well, I think, it's my turn. I think option one is the only option, looking at everything else we have to do. But I have to agree, for the first time in the last 2 years with Gene Hodge, that well, eventually it would come to that, I knew, Gene. But I think if you look at all we have to do in the county, and I brought this up at the last budget when I said we were broke, because you look at the capital improvement plan and it's $6 million or whatever worth of construction work there. And that's one reason I said the county's broke. That money don't exist nowhere. So I think I think we need to move on it too. I think that option one is a good deal, but I think it needs to be tied into the capital improvement plan. And I don't know, Richard, do you have any idea how long do it take a capital improvement? We got a foot in the door on it.
Yeah, I would expect we could get a pretty decent plan within 6 months or so.
Yeah, I don't think that's too long, I mean, and maybe option one's not. After we do that, we might find out in the long term, it's option 3.
Well, my comments on that are just simply that when we look at the overall plan, we need to decide what we're gonna do with the old courthouse. And if
Right.
the decision is that we're gonna keep that building forever, then, it's not getting any cheaper, to do what we need to do on that building, and maybe that's where we start. Because we've got a courtroom up there that basically is idle, that doesn't have any secondary use.
And if we need a new boardroom, and that's, like I say, getting old, what are we gonna do with that building? I mean, maybe it's kinda all coming together. It's not just the boardroom, it's a whole bunch more than that's gonna tie together. And all due respect, that's a great idea, Chief, but I don't think the county needs to share our boardroom with the city. With all the empty buildings and space we have, I really think we could find a place. I'd stay here first myself. And I don't mean that anything against the city, I think, it's just, I mean, Lassen County can afford their own boardroom. We're not that broke. Okay, that's all I got.
What about you, big guy?
Well, there's the lady right there that can tell us whether we can do this or not. And she hasn't even been brought into the picture.
She can lay it down.
I want to comment. If anyone wants to hear it, I'm sorry Jim's not here to hear it. But he's been told before, you know, we're not destitute, but we're struggling. We've been spending more than we've been bringing in for a number of years. And next year is going to be the same thing. I don't see things turning around. Revenues are improving a little bit, but our expenditures are outpacing those revenue increases. We're going to have a difficult budget year, and I think it's going to come down to making choices. Either I just don't see how we can continue our current operations, as in public safety, at the level we currently have, unless we start budgeting a little more practically. We do not have $8 million squirreled away. That's ridiculous. And anyway, did I make my position clear?
Yeah, and I think that to add to that, Karen, last week I listened to Governor Brown. I don't know if he's talking about the budget or what, I forget exactly what. I turned the TV on, he was talking, but he said that because of the year stay they got for the prisons to get the population down, and they were asking him, what are some of your ideas for doing this? And one of them was increase more inmates on the county level, which means 109 is just the tip of the iceberg to where we could be going.
Right. We have,
I mean, this could be,
yeah,
we could be talking an extra $1 million in a couple of years. I don't know.
increases in public safety, pension costs. You know, we don't have any bonded debt, but we still have unfunded liabilities in the tune of, what, I think about $9 million in pension obligations. There are obligations for compensated absences. So, you know, we're not destitute, but we need to be sensible and thoughtful in our planning.
I have a question, Karen.
Yes.
In the past, Supervisor Chapman has mentioned, I'm not talking about dollar amounts, just specific funds. And I was going to ask Jim, but he had to rush off. But can you talk to that? He mentioned that when this first came about, he says there were some monies in the capital.
You know what, and, well,
Like that we could only use for this type of, stuff.
it's discretionary, and we've used some of that for the improvements to the Veterans Hall. We've been using that, we've had a pot of money, there's been one-time funds. We've been using it for a number of years, so those funds are dwindling, and they're really exhausted. I asked Mr. Chapman to identify the money that he feels is stashed away, and I don't know where he thinks it is.
I don't know where it is.
So we need a capital improvement plan, I mean, I'm sure, you would probably agree. And so, once that plan is in place, say we have that plan today, and our first expenditure in listed priorities, we needed to spend, say, $500,000, or say, $250,000. So, in your opinion, I mean, where would we draw that
We
money, that
have-
$250,000 to do priority number one, whether it be the boardroom, or
Right.
something else, or something else, or something else, where would we?
There's the
Take it from.
accumulated capital asset, capital ACO,
Outlay.
thank you.
Okay, that's the fund.
Right, and that does receive a share of property tax revenue,
Okay.
approximately, I think, 290,000 each year. The current balance in that fund is about 900,000, and I'm
Okay.
working from memory, so don't, if
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
exact, don't blame me. That money has been appropriated for certain projects. We've used it to maintain our computer infrastructure, telephone systems, and make improvements to county buildings.
and how
So
much?
there is money there,
Yeah.
but
And what monies, what on average, what do we get in there? per
about
annum?
260 to 90,000,
Okay, based on property tax.
correct.
Okay, so that's, that's kind of like an ongoing source
Yes.
for the capital improvement.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I mean, once we have the plan, there is money to start. It isn't really
Right.
also accurate not to say that we have no money to do anything. I mean, there's $1 million there that could be used.
Correct,
Out
but
of
we
that-
also have, what, 6+ million in needs. So,
But that we use these monies for?
yes,
Well,
that's
we,
what I would go for.
we use part of that fund each year for equipment also, not just construction, but for computers, copiers, all sorts of different equipment. Probably I would estimate maybe around 100,000 a year goes towards those types of
Upgrading equipment.
replacing.
Correct.
But it seems obvious that we need this plan, we need it quick, and we need to start, even if it's a small
You know
project,
what,
$100,000 project.
I agree 100%.
$183,000 project, I mean, we need to get some stuff going before it all crumbles down around the
Right.
people
My
down the
wish
road.
would be that I would like to see the board with a capital improvement plan that prioritizes the needs.
Yeah,
And the same with budgeting, you know.
I think that's, we all feel like
I
that.
think one other point that Mr. Morris brought up should not be overlooked, and that is a lot of our facilities are horribly inefficient when it comes to cooling,
Utilities.
heating, lighting, et cetera. And so even though it's gonna cost money to do some of these projects, we're gonna save
Save
other
money long term.
budgetary line items in power and electricity, heating and so forth. So that needs to be taken into consideration.
Aaron, do you have anything?
No, I think we've had a lot of good discussion on here, and I'll look forward to having, continuing this on the week. Okay. So,
Iona? did you
Yes,
have something?
please. My thought about the capital improvement plan, Jim made a statement that of the history of how we had the courthouse, and then we remodeled it, then we came over here, and we remodeled it, and then we go back over there, and we remodeled it. After a while, how much remodeling can you do to an old building? It turns into a hodgepodge building, all right? So the idea of the capital improvement plan is maybe we should look at a fact in the future that the plan be a big, huge complex, like the plan for the district, recreation district or something like that. Start adding to the future and using some of these monies for that, instead of trying to remodel something that's gonna crumble, eventually. So you've got to not just say, I want something, and just go spend it. You gotta realize that you have the constant expenditures, like Karen Phelps brings up, and work with that. So the idea is to go in and remodel and come back and forth. That is not the way to improve even your electrical panels and all the things that go into the infrastructure of the building. And what do you know when you get into the building that there's some other problem with it structurally? So whether contingency funds and that sort of thing that you have to look at too. So I think the idea in the capital improvement plan is not just to go in and say, I'm gonna remodel the old courthouse or the auditor's office. I think you gotta think at a wider range. Thanks.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll be on our monthly to-do list, and to have a good lengthy conversation in the afternoon. I think we're gonna set it for 1 o'clock, first meeting of each month, where we get into it in detail and we actually get the ball rolling.
And Pete, you know, we've got buildings scattered everywhere. I wouldn't even mind seeing a list of where they're at. Because, you know, when I did the department tour, I was shocked, frankly, to be honest with you, that the state of the repairs of buildings and also where they were located. They're all over the place. And it's very inefficient. It's just a horrible way to run a business. And I'd like to see that list, Pete, so we can look at it and go, oh.
Yeah, we can do, and the other problem with that is that this department, Public Works Building and Grounds, probably has 90% of the buildings, but like the sheriff's department stuff, they do their own thing.
Yeah.
There's a few miscellaneous that are out there that, you know, the juvenile hall's another one we don't really take care of or budget for necessarily and stuff, so. But we'll try to, I have a comprehensive one that we've worked with the insurance carrier on and trying to pull all that stuff together and stuff, so absolutely, that's a starting point for sure.
Yeah. Figure out how you can consolidate and save money long-term. Sorry, Karen.
Oh,
Don't stand back up here, you're the girl.
I was going to correct my numbers. The current balance of the ACO fund is $780,000, and the annual revenue anticipated for this fiscal year is $230,000.
So you have 115,000 yet to come to that fund.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, April
No.
10th is the second part of the property taxes.
Oh, pretty close, about 100,000, yes.
Okay, well, Karen, thank you for
Yeah.
the info. I think we've discussed this here at length.
Yep.
Time to
So is it the direction to proceed with the capital improvements plan
Yes.
earnestly with
Yes.
intent, and then
Yes.
hold off on
Yes.
developing these alternatives until we have a meeting or two
I
on
think
that?
so. I mean, that would
Yeah,
be my recommendation.
that
is
makes
we-
perfect sense.
we,
Okay.
It seems that we're gonna pursue anything. I think the board said that, you know, it'd be the
Option one.
cheapest option. And then,
Absolutely.
if that's the agreement, then that whole idea needs to become part of the capital improvement.
Maybe option one would be the option to use for the new board in the capital improvement plan.
Yes.
I think everybody would feel
I think
more
that's what
comfortable
I-
if we had a little bit of method to our madness.
All right, well, Public Works and I will be working on that.
Okay. And I want to thank the participation from the public, you know,
Yeah.
on this, and Gene, thank you for your info you submitted, and everybody for their comments. Jeff, thank you for.
Yeah, I like this one better, Gene, what you get out today.
Yeah, that one's,
Okay, and
You know, at 10 pages, I fall asleep.
Richard, did I miss anything, or are we pretty much?
Let me quickly look through the agenda, but I think that's it.
I got there close.
Yeah.
Closed session.
We're going to conclude our public part of our meeting. We're going to go back into closed session now.